Okay, so welcome everyone back to Gita Live. So apologies for last week that we were not able to do it because I was a bit down. But thank you for all coming back today. So let's start by giving some prayers. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Alright. So let's start off. So we're going to first cover a bit of a recap from what we did 2 weeks back. So in chapter 3, what was talked about, the last thing. How many of you remember what the acronym was for chapter 3? What was the acronym? Tree. Okay. What does T stand for? No. T stand for? Yeah. R stands for the rungs of the yoga ladder. The first E stands for what? Exemplary. And then the last one was eternal enemy. The eternal enemy. So the last section of chapter 3, Krishna talks that lust is the eternal enemy. It is what covers a person's knowledge. Right? So what does this mean? It means that lust is what keeps us bounded to this material world, because it makes us ignorant of our true nature. Like, our true nature is what? To be the servitor and to be the enjoyed. But what lust does, it makes it opposite. So we think that we are the persons to be served. So we are the enjoyers, as well enjoyed to enjoyer, and servitor to being the one served. That's what lust does. It is a complete opposite. And that's what binds us in this material world. Yeah? Now, to remove this lust, Krishna recommended very beautiful detached work known as Nishkam Karma and offer it as a sacrifice to Vishnu. Okay? By doing this, once this person starts to sacrifice, we kind of discussed this. To sacrifice can be two parts. It can be selfless and it can also be selfish. I'm sacrificing something now so that I get something better in the future. That is a selfish sacrifice. And then there's a selfless, where I don't care whatever I get. I'm just doing it as my duty. I'm just going to give up and do this as my duty. I'm not attached to my whatever I get. Yeah? I'm not attached to the fruit. So there are two types. But the selfless one is better than the selfish sacrifice, because when you're doing it selflessly, by doing that you'll get transcendental knowledge, which is the topic of chapter 4. Okay? Transcendental knowledge will act like a sword which helps us to cut our ignorance and reposition us in our constitutional position. Right? It's the same thing. With transcendental knowledge, you realize that you are not the enjoyer and you are not the master, but you are actually the enjoyed and you are a servitor. Okay? Now, I explain it this way. So imagine if there's a person, right? And they are part of society, right? So let's take Arjuna as example. Arjuna is a warrior. What does Arjuna have to give to society? If he's a warrior, what is his role?
Protection.
To protect. So he's a protector. Leadership, everything else. Well, for him giving this service, what does society give back to him? Thanks, but he gives him power, prestige, and position. Okay? Society gives that to him because they expect that when the time of need comes, he will step up and be a protector. Right? So there's a give and take relationship in everything. There's a give and take. So, in chapter 3 is all about Krishna telling Arjuna, you do your duty of being a protector, because society, if you do your duty, society will automatically give you all these things. Yeah? And you need that because that's your nature. You need power, you need prestige, and you need position to be able to function well in society. That is your need. Alright? So this is a two-way street. It's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. Give and take. Now imagine if somebody wanted to become a teacher. Say somebody wanted to become a teacher. He has got this urge to teach. But that person also has basic requirements to live. Yeah, he needs to feed himself, he needs to look after his family. Now, if society doesn't value teachers, doesn't look after the teachers, it doesn't give teachers enough money. Although teachers are not, when they go into teaching, the main focus is not that they want to make money, but rather is because they have this innate nature that they want to give knowledge to others. But you also need certain amount to keep life going. So if society doesn't even give them this much, even the people who are by nature are going to have the qualities of being a good teacher, they will also not want to do it because they'll be like, well, we also need our basic needs covered. Similarly, if you think about a government, the government will levy taxes, but it levies taxes for what? So that it protects and upholds the rights of the citizens. If a taxpayer does not give taxes but uses the benefits of the system, that is known as a free rider. He is abusing and is exploiting the system. But at the same time, if the government takes a lot of taxes but doesn't do anything in return, doesn't give anything to return, then that government is exploitative. Yeah? Yes or no?
Yes.
So there has to be a give and take relationship. Okay? Therefore, if somebody wants to do a right thing, there has to be two things. One, there has to be individual impetus. There must be people in society who want to become teachers. Yeah? What if no one wants to become teachers? Then you not even have that. So there has to be individual impetus. And to sustain that, there needs to be a right social orientation. So chapter 3 was all about Krishna telling Arjuna to do your duty. To do your duty. And chapter 4, Krishna will say that I have also organized society in such a way that when you do your part, society will also do its part in uplifting you. So you take care of the world will take care of you. Okay? It's a symbiotic relationship. Okay? So far, that is what this chapter 4 introduction is all about. Chapter 3 is doing this way, chapter 4 is this other way. Okay? So, for the society to function, it needs knowledge. And in particularly, to get knowledge to base society on, we need spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is also known as Shruti, meaning that which is heard. It is knowledge that is passed down orally. Okay? So in previous ages, people would hear this knowledge of Gita, Bhagavatam and everything. They would remember it, they would assimilate it, and then they would perfectly communicate it to the next person with clarity and accuracy. So in the beginning of the 4th chapter, Krishna will start by revealing that actually it was he himself who gave this imperishable knowledge by which society will be orientated in such a way that it fosters people to do the right thing. Okay? Or to do dharma, a dharmic society, the basis of dharmic society, or the knowledge of how to build it, is given by Krishna in the Vedas and all that. Okay? Now, this passing down of knowledge perfectly came to be known as the disciplic succession. Okay? And whenever the true understanding of this knowledge was lost, God or his representative always descended and preached the original understanding again. Now, in this world, you will see that if you leave something If you leave something alone for how many years, it will start to rot and start to decay. There is a system of natural destruction in this world. Yeah? If you leave something away, naturally it will become useless, because it will rot, decay. It will become not. If it's not well maintained, it will definitely break down. So the same thing in society. This knowledge will be lost. Lost in the sense that the true meaning, the true understanding of how to utilize this knowledge was lost. And so people had to come again and again to re-establish the true principles behind that knowledge. Yeah? Sometimes so for example, I don't know how many of you saw, there was this movie that came out called Oppenheimer about the atomic bomb. So if you think about it, the reason why he created this was that there would be no war anymore. What it did is that because of unscrupulous people, it became a weapon for mass destruction. Like, so for the reason why it was created was lost. It was meant for world peace, but it became a more unstable condition after that. Yeah? So this is what knowledge does. If knowledge is not utilized in the right way, it will cause destruction. Okay? Now, chapter 4 is based on the acronym called EARS. As we said, transcendental knowledge is supposed to be heard. It is Shruti. So E stands for eternal education, A stands for accurate understanding, R stands for removing reactions, and S stands for sacrifice. Okay? So let's start. E, eternal education. Now, every gadget, even this mic, it has come with the instruction manual. Anything that even if you look at your home, when you buy something, it always comes with the instruction manual. Even this universe, when it was created, there was an instruction manual which told us what is the purpose and function of this universe. Okay? So these instruction manuals are the divine guide. So the scriptures are of divine origin. They are meant to inform us about the function and the purpose of this world. Okay? And this was delivered at the dawn of creation. So Krishna himself, if you look at the first text of chapter 4, Krishna says that he is the one who set up the eternal education system and instructed it to Vivaswan millions of years ago. Okay? And then he said that this knowledge is passed down through qualified and saintly people. Okay? So what these people will do is that they will impart this knowledge in a very dynamic, relevant and practical way. And so some people, depending on the time, place and circumstance, the same knowledge is repackaged so that it is beneficial for the people at that point in time. Okay? So, then Krishna said that the real purpose of this knowledge was lost, and hence he is retelling the supreme knowledge to Arjuna once again. Okay? Again, the real purpose, what is the real purpose of this knowledge? Is so that society gets arranged in this way to motivate people to do the right thing, and for people to understand that they have got material duties, they've got spiritual duties to do, and to live a spiritually progressive life. Okay? So that a person understands who God is, who they are, and what the relationship between myself and God is. Okay? Now, to build a relationship with somebody, you have to hear about them. Yeah? If I tell you, love this person, you'll be like, okay, what is good about this person? Tell me something about this person that I can get attracted to. Yeah? So the easiest way to build a relationship or build some sort of attraction is to hear about them. Right? So the whole purpose of all this Vedic knowledge, transcendental scriptures, is so that we get to know about who God is, so that we can develop a desire to get attached to him and to love him. Okay? Now, Arjuna comes up with saying that, wait, hold on a second. You are saying that you spoke this thing to Vivaswan millions of years ago, but I know you. You're my aunt's son. You're my cousin brother. Your birth is accounted for in my own lifetime. How can I believe that you spoke this millions of years ago? That's a very valid question. So this question is a springboard for Krishna to divert the thing and establish the supremacy of himself. This is where, for the first time in the Gita, Krishna will indicate that I am actually God. I am actually God. This is when he does it. Okay? So Krishna tells Arjuna that I remember all my incarnations, but we living beings will not be able to remember. Okay? There's God, and then there's everyone else. Okay? Now in everyone else, there are two parts. There is the conditioned beings, which are like all of us in this material world, and then there are the liberated beings, liberated souls, which are always with God. He says that I remember everything, but you do not remember everything. Because of two things. First of all, he has a spiritual body. When he comes, he doesn't come in a material body like us, made of blood, bones, mucus, and all that. He comes in a spiritual body. That spiritual body is always there throughout all his incarnations. That's why he can remember everything, past, present, future. So we keep on changing our bodies, our material bodies. After death, we go to a new body. After death, we go to a new body. So because we keep on changing, we forget all our activities that we performed in the previous one. That is why we don't remember. That's reason one. And reason two is because we are infinitesimal, while God is infinite. So his remembrance power is so much, while we are always part and parcel, so we are always limited. So that's another reason. So two reasons. One is because Krishna's body is always Satchitananda, is always eternal, is always spiritual, and we conditioned souls have material bodies, so that is prone to forgetfulness, and also that because he is always the supreme whole, and we are always a part and parcel, so we'll never be able to have the same abilities as God does. Okay? So this proves that God is always transcendental and supreme. Then Krishna further says that he appears perpetually. Not only this time he comes, but he comes in different incarnations, in different times. He has come as Lord Rama. He has come as Nrsimhadev. He has come as Vaman Avatar. He has come as Vatsya Avatar. So many different avatars he has taken to come and perpetually give this knowledge. Okay? So, why does he come to do it? So, he comes to give it because we cannot know God. God himself has to give knowledge about himself, because no one will be able to understand God. Only he himself can give knowledge about him. And second reason is, he comes to give knowledge about him because we cannot understand, and he speeds up the process. He tells you, okay, this is who I am, this is my activities, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. He gives a form, and he shows us that this is my form. So we don't have to imagine or concoct an imaginary person to be God. He comes himself to show that this is who I am. Yeah, this is who I am. So he plays his part to attract us toward him. That's what he does. Okay? And then Krishna says that, what is my purpose of descent? My purpose to descend, and this is a very famous verse, 4.8. I don't know if you know. Does anyone know what 4.8 is? If you watch Mahabharata in Star Plus, or you know that Mahabharata used to come on the TV. Okay, 4.8. Somebody wants to read 4.8? Does anyone have the Gita with them?
To deliver the
No, that's the Sanskrit.
परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतं सर्वसंस्थापनाय संभवामि युगे युगे.
Now, this is 4.7 and 4.8. These two verses everyone in India knows. If anyone has watched Mahabharata, they know these two verses. Yeah, that's 4.7. 4.7 is Yada Yada, this is Paritranam Sadhana. So these two verses everyone knows. Because anyone who's watched Mahabharata will know this. Okay? So he says that the reason why I come down, the primary reason is to deliver the pious. He comes down for the pious people. And then to attract people. That's his second thing. And for the miscreants, the people who are deviations or deviated from the philosophy, he comes to kill them. But that is not his main thing. To kill a demon is not a very big thing for him. The main thing he comes is to connect, to give pleasure to the devotees. Killing, like if you look at Krishna Leela, every single day he was killing demons left, right, and center without much difficulty. But his main job was what? He wanted to have loving exchanges with the residents of Vrindavan. Okay? So that's his primary and secondary reason. And now the effect of realizing this transcendental knowledge is twofold. One, it gives you liberation. And two, beyond liberation, it gives you transcendental love. Okay? Krishna. That is in 4.9 and 4.10. And this is that section. Okay? Now, A, accurate understanding. This is where we are going to focus a lot of the talk on. Now, in three verses. So first of all, most people will know something about God or religion, and the problem is these conceptions are often hazy and confusing. People have confusing on these things. But when one receives transcendental knowledge through his eternal education system, all of one's misunderstandings go away, misconceptions go away. One gets an accurate understanding. Okay? Now, in 3 verses, Krishna will clear 3 common misunderstandings of Eastern spirituality. Okay? 4.11, 4.12, and 4.13. Now, in 4.11, what is the misconception that people have? The misconception is that all spiritual paths will lead to the same destination. Now, the argument is that it doesn't matter what path you take, all are ultimately going to take you to the same destination. So, this is a thing. Let me Okay, so let's take this to be like a mountain. Okay? So, what people think is that whether I go up this way, or go up this way, maybe even this way, I will reach the top. That is what people think. That yatapat tatapat. Whatever you think is the way, is the way. That is a misunderstanding. The accurate understanding is that while there is unity in diversity, there is different gradations of spiritual elevation. Now, how many of you remember in the last one we covered the yoga ladder? That if you're low breaker, then there is a low abider, karma kand, karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and then finally bhakti yoga. Those are different gradations. Okay, you can, if you're on that path, eventually you'll get to the top. It's not that you can take any path and then you're getting to the top. Okay? It's a gradation. So a counter example is that if one takes a flight ticket, you just buy it. I want to leave from Mombasa and I want one ticket and that ticket will take me to wherever I want. Actually. No, it's so nice. No. But when you take a ticket, there's already a pre-planned destination. It's not like I take a ticket from Mombasa and I can take a ticket that is bound for Nairobi, but I want to go to Johannesburg. No, that's not possible. If you take a ticket for Nairobi, you will only get to Nairobi. Okay? So the flight ticket doesn't allow you to travel to any other destination apart from the destination written on that ticket. And finally, food can only reach the stomach through the mouth. Yeah, there's only one hole in the entire body. There are 9 holes: 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, and 2 genitals. But the food will only go through one mouth, the one hole of the body. You cannot put food through the ear and then hope it reaches the stomach. Yeah. Now, and then what does verse 12 say? Verse 12 says that all Vedic scriptures talk about polytheism and the worship of many gods. And this is a very big one. That people think Hinduism is polytheistic, that there are many gods. Like the argument is that all of Ganesh, Brahma, Shiv, Durga, they are all on the same level. It doesn't matter who you worship, it's all good. Now the accurate understanding is that actually, if you look at the Gita, it is monotheistic. It will re-emphasize the monotheistic, that there is one God, and that God is Krishna himself. Okay? But there is a multi-dimensional structure of entities with control power. Just like if there is a big firm, there is only one CEO, but there could be many managers. There are many different gradations of people in that organization. But the top boss, the owner, is only one. Okay? Now, and verse 13 is that the caste system. This is a very big thing that happened when the British took over. They twisted the understanding of the caste system, and they said that this is a very exploitative and unfair practice. Actually, not only the British, but at that time, society had the knowledge that there's a caste system, but it became a system of exploitation, that the top would exploit the people at the bottom. Okay? But so like the ruling became a birthright. If you're born in a high class society, then you're high class. If you're born in a low class, then you are low class. That's your destiny. Yeah? So ruling became a birthright instead of proving the ability to lead. So, but the actual understanding is that the caste system is not based on birthright. It is based on guna. It's based on qualities. And it is a natural division in society. Okay? Now, I don't know if you know this, but there is a book, and actually, so the whole of Western society is taking its principles from the Greeks, the ancient Greeks. In ancient Greece, there was a philosopher by the name of Plato. And he had a book called The Republic. Now, in the Republic, he describes the 5 types of government. And he describes that what would be the best type of government and what would be the worst kind of government. Okay? And he says that right at the beginning, the best type is of aristocracy. I'll write all of them and explain them. Next is okay. So right at the top, the best type of society is an aristocratic society. What does this mean? This means that this society is run by wise people, by people known as philosopher kings. Okay? Now, in democracy, it says that this society is run by honorable and military power. There is a military commander who is running the affairs of the state. But they don't have wisdom, they just have power. But power without wisdom corrupts. And then what happens is that because there is no wisdom, power will corrupt, and power corrupts through wealth. So the more the wealthy the people, then society will be run by a few very wealthy people. Yeah, and that becomes an oligarchy. But then what happens is because there is a lot of power and a lot of wealth, but there's no wisdom, it becomes exploitative. And if it exploits too much of the people's resources, people will start to revolt. And when they revolt, they will overthrow the wealthy people, the minority few, and then the majority public will then elect a person from within themselves to lead. And so then you have the rule of the many, which is what most of the government in this day and age is. It's a democracy. And then what happens is, from the people they elect, sometimes they elect people who are proper rogues and criminals. And then they assume dictatorship. And they seize control, and then they exploit everyone. And so the worst part is tyrannical government. And I'm sure if you know about world politics and world history, you have seen many countries who have got tyrannical rule as well, dictatorships and all that. So if you see this, it actually really closely aligns with how society was actually meant to be ordered in ancient times. So in ancient times, this was the type of government that was there. It was ruled by philosopher kings, Raja Rishi, a king who is saintly in character. So this person is not only focused on the material well-being of the citizens, but is also looking after the spiritual progression of each and every citizen in that country. And this is what Ram Rajya looks like. Yeah? This is why monarchy in its purest form was the best type of government. Because it was guided by Kshatriyas, it was protected by Kshatriyas, but the Kshatriyas were advised by the Brahmanical class, the learned people. The learned people would guide the Kshatriyas, the protectors, and order them to create a society in which Brahmanical culture was protected. Okay? You will see this in a few slides of time. But anyway, we get to 4.11. Now 4.11 talks about the different paths to God. Now if you look at the translation, we break it down into two parts. It says, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Pritha is Arjuna. Okay. Pritha is actually Kunti, son of Pritha is Arjuna. So the first part in green, as all surrendered unto me, I reward them accordingly. What type of statement would you call that? Or what does it show? It kind of shows that God is reciprocal. The amount of surrender you have towards Him, that much He will reciprocate with you. And the second part is that everyone follows my path in all respects. That means that He has got a very universal approach. You can approach Him through many different paths. Yeah, whichever path you want, you can approach Him, as long as it is authorized. So He's saying that the paths to me are universal, but there is reciprocity. Okay? Now, the misconception is that, again as you saw, the misconception is that all spiritual paths lead to the same destination. Now I'm going to tell you three different types of paths. There is the exclusivist path, a pluralist, and an inclusivist. Okay, so if you think about it, there are two paths. Let's try the two extremes. There is exclusive, and then there is inclusive. Pluralist. So, exclusive people, They think that my path is the only path to get to God. It's exclusive. If you're on this path, then only you get God. If you're not on this path, you're destined to go to hell. Okay, these are the major Abrahamic religions. They are like belonging to this group. They say that if you're on this path, that's it. That's the only path to God. No other path is good. Okay? Now, just a more aggressive form of this is known as extremist people. They are normally part of the exclusive. So exclusive is in thought that follow my path or you go to hell. And then the extremist people will be like, anyway you're going to hell, let us make you faster, let us take you there faster. Yeah, that's what extremist people do. Yeah. So they say, you're going to hell anyway, let's just make the time spent shorter, let's just speed up your journey there. So that is extremist. Now, on the other side is a pluralist. They say that no matter what path you take, you're going to reach God. So in this path, in this example, if you want to reach the top, even if you go down the valley, you'll be able to reach the top. That is what they think. That doesn't matter which path you take, all paths are equal. So even an atheist person can come. Like even atheism is a path. Like I don't believe in God. So atheistic. Yeah, that's also a path. And so the like, whatever you think is also a path. That doesn't work. But the right understanding is somewhere in the middle. And this is known as the inclusivist. Okay? These people, they say that, okay, we all have a common goal. We all have a common goal, and we accept that there are many ways to get to God. We can go this way, 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 whichever way. But as long as there is a unity in the approach and the goal, there could be many paths. There are many paths to get up a mountain. Just because you come up one path, you cannot say that, okay, this is the only way up the mountain. No, another person can be coming up from the other side of the mountain, and yet he'll meet you at the top. He'll meet you at the summit. So this is what the whole point is, that exclusives, like, okay, only this path is the best. Pluralist is all paths, even if it's down here, that's as good as reaching the top. But then inclusivist is all paths are, and many paths to God, as long as we have a common goal. Okay? Now, reciprocity. The three types of reciprocation that God has with people. People can be classified into three types: followers of adharma, dharma, and bhakti. Adharma is when they are not at all even in line with any of the religious texts or religious scriptures. Dharma are the people which follow some religious scriptures, and bhakti are the people who have understood the essence of the Vedic scriptures and are following this path. So, Krishna reciprocates with the people who do not follow with any religious scriptures by entrusting them in this world. He says that, okay, you don't want to come to reciprocate with me, it's fine, you stay there. You stay in this material world because you are not prepared to reciprocate with me. The people who are starting their journey to reciprocate and following dharma, he empowers them. He will empower them so that they progress on this path until they reach the stage of bhakti. And in bhakti, what happens is Bhagavan then enchants them. First, he entraps the followers of adharma, he empowers the followers of dharma, and then he enchants the followers of bhakti with his transcendental love. Okay? Now, 4.12. 4.12, we are going to understand the hierarchy. Okay? Now, there is a hierarchy in understanding what the scriptures are talking about. Okay? Just like I said that in an organization there is one CEO, but there could be many managers. Similarly, there is like the universe is like a big organization in which there is one head, which is God Himself, and then the many managers. So we'll create like this. Okay? This two will be known as Vishnu Tattva, and here is known as Jiva Tattva. So in Vishnu Tattva, there is first of all the concept of Bhagavan. Okay? Bhagavan is one. Yeah? He is the original person, the original supreme person. And in Gita, this is called to be Krishna. Now, Krishna takes many forms, as we already discussed. He comes perpetually in different incarnations, in different forms to give knowledge. So, when Krishna, he can incarnate himself as the original supreme person. Just like, for example, there is an actor, right? There's an actor who acts in films, but then he's actually a real person in life outside the film industry, right? So if there was a very famous actor, and he's done so many films, and then finally he's so famous that people decide that, you know what, we need a film about your own life. We need a film about your own life. So he says, okay, I will act in a film about my own life. Yeah? When he comes, so Krishna is that. He's like, he comes down in many incarnations as Ram, Narasimha, Matsya, Vaman, yeah? But then, when he comes and does the same movie of his own life, of his own true self, that is known as Krishna. So here we have Bhagavan, and then here we have the avatars. Now, avatar, these are expansions of Krishna that descend to the material world. Now, an avatar is completely spiritual. Ava means to come down or to descend, and tar means to take you across. Okay? So these personalities, they come down to the material world to help us, conditioned souls, cross over material existence into spiritual existence. Okay? And avatar does not come down because there's no choice. He comes down to help us go across. Right? He chooses when to come down. It's not like us. We did not choose to come into this body. No, we are forced to come into this body. And avatar doesn't do that. Avatar chooses when. He will choose who his mother will be. He will choose who his father will be. He will choose everything. He will choose his entire life story. He will plan it out before he comes in. And he comes down to act according to that. And the main aim, as we discussed, is already in 4.8. Why God comes down. Okay? Now that's Vishnu Tattva, and now we have Jiva Tattva. Now in here we have all of us, so we are all Jivas, ordinary Jivas, and then there is demigods. Okay? So just like as I give an example, like there is a state, and the state has a government. But the government, everyone is a citizen of the state. Whether that person be an ordinary person or that person be a minister. A minister is also a citizen of the state. Yeah, first and foremost. He was just elected to become a minister to help govern the state. Similarly, demigods are like ministers which are appointed by Bhagavan to manage the cosmos, to manage the universe according to his will. And we are all other ordinary jivas. Okay? So, if we want, we can also become demigods. If we want. And actually, in some cases, we have been demigods in the past. We have taken, so things like Indra, Varuna, these are not people, these are posts. Just like you have a finance minister, you have a home minister, you have an education minister. All these are different posts. It's not that one person who becomes that post, he will get that for eternity. No, that keeps on changing. The post of Indra keeps on changing. It's not a person, it's a post. And different people take on different posts. Although the level for how long they have it is incomprehensible for a human being. Because their lifetimes are millions of years long. But still, it's not permanent, it's temporary. Okay? So, this is basically what the hierarchy structure is. Here, the difference here is like there's no difference here in a sense. It's just like we have one candle. So one candle lights all the candles. But from all the candles that are lying there was still a first candle out of all of them. So there's no difference, but yet there was one which was the original candle. Right? There's no difference between them, but there is one which is original. That's the difference between Bhagwan feature and Avatar feature. Okay? Now, 4.13. How to find our purpose. Now, Krishna says that he created society. He created society in what way? Again, I just use the same diagram. He says that I have organized society in such a way that it is called the Varna Ashram. Varna Ashram. Varna means occupation. So you can be a Brahmana, you could be a Kshatriya, you could be a Vaishya, or you could be a Shudra. These are the four Varnas. Okay? These are the occupations of life. And then there are ashramas or life orders. So there are another four. Okay? These are Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. These are the four spiritual orders of life. So just like these are known as Varna, and then this is known as Ashrama or stage in life. So Brahmacharya is student life, Grahastha is married life, Vanaprastha is retired life, and Sannyas is detached life. Completely at the end of life, you have to be detached from your material life and fully focused on spirituality. That's the spiritual progression of life. And this is the material qualities that determine in which part is most suited for you to exist day to day in your life. What occupation is good? Either you're a Brahmana, you're a Kshatriya, you're a Vaishya, or you're a Shudra. Okay? So think of all of us to be like I don't have a mobile phone. But imagine there's a mobile phone. Everyone has a different mobile phone, yeah? So there are different apps, different specifications, but all phones must have one quality which makes it a phone. What is that one quality that a phone must have? Calling. So if a phone cannot call, it cannot be called a phone. Yeah, it has to have that one basic quality. So that calling, the basic quality that is there in all phones is known as our eternal duty or our ultimate duty. We are all children of God. We all have a connection with God. So we need to utilize our phone-like body to at least call and connect with God. But all of us have different specifications. Each one of us has got different models, different sizes, different abilities. But we need to utilize all these in a way that so the way we utilize that is known as our immediate purpose, but the calling part is our ultimate purpose. So I'm going to focus on finding our immediate purpose. So this is based on this part here. Okay? This part here. So I want to ask you a question. What happens if a person does not follow your purpose in life? And let me ask you through another question. Take the example of a fish. Yeah, we all know that a fish needs to stay in water. What happens to a fish when you take it out of water?
Dies.
Okay, before it dies, what happens to it? It keeps on suffering. It's abnormal for being out of water is an abnormal condition for the fish. It will suffer. It will not enjoy its time outside the water. And if it is staying too long outside, what will eventually happen to it? It will die. Okay? So one way to find our purpose is to first find out what is not our purpose. Okay? So, or what happens to us if you're not following our purpose. If you're feeling uncomfortable in life, if you're feeling that you're in a situation that is not normal for you, if you're struggling a lot, if you feel like you're exerting more effort than normal to live, if you're feeling unhappy, if you're feeling all of these things, that means that you're not living according to your dharma or your immediate duties, or duties that are suited according to your psychophysical nature. Okay? So, how many of you know the movie called Three Idiots? How many of you heard of Three Idiots? You heard of Three Idiots? What are the three main characters of Three Idiots? What are the names of the three idiots? Do you remember? What? Rancho? Farhan? And? Raju. Rastogi. Right? Now, this is actually very good. Farhan, what was his passion in the movie? Wildlife photography. Well, where did he end up? Engineering. You know, he had found his purpose in life. He had found that he wanted to become a wildlife photographer. But he was pushed to become an engineer. And then what happened? What happens to him in the movie? He fails. He's not enjoying his time in engineering. But finally, he gets the courage to say that no, I don't want to do engineering, but I want to pursue a career in wildlife photography. And at the end, or at the beginning or the end of the movie, you see how happy he is in his chosen purpose or profession. Now, take the opposite. What was Raju? What does Raju say in the movie? And what was his passion?
Engineering.
His passion was engineering. And he's in an engineering college. But what's happening to him?
He was too scared.
Too scared. So sometimes you might not find your purpose, but it's very difficult for you to live your purpose. And that's because they are things that stop us from wanting to live our potential. And so these are known as expectation of others. These are like desire for appreciation and accolades. Even if I know that this is the right thing for me, here I will make more money. I'll make more money in this profession, so let me go and do that. But what will happen? They don't realize that it's not a natural fit for you. You'll be unhappy, you'll be stressed out. Just because you wanted more money, you're taking on all this extra stresses and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. Yeah? Then another thing is people always think that the grass is greener on the other side. So even if they are in something that they are liking it, they don't have patience because they feel like, this is not working out for me. But actually, if they just stuck it out, they would be in that thing. And if you think about Thomas Alva Edison, he created the light bulb after how many attempts? After 1,000 attempts. That if he was an inventor, he was a scientist by trade, and if he said that this thing is not working at all, let me become a financier, it won't work. We will not know who that person is. It's because he stayed in his dharma, he stayed in his purpose, he stayed in an environment which was suitable for him. Right? So the ideal example is the one of who? Rancho. He knew his purpose and he lived his purpose. Yeah? And that is why he also became the most successful. Right? So from this movie we can apply this really well. Okay? So there are 4 types: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or known as the educator, the executive, the entrepreneur, and the employee. What is the activity? It's to teach, manage, supply, and assist respectively. The value that they add to society is that the Brahmana gives knowledge, the Kshatriya gives protection, the Vaishya gives wealth or wealth creation and economy and boosting the economy and value creation, and the Shudra gives stability. Okay? What does Brahmana fight? They fight ignorance in society. They fight people from going down the wrong path. Kshatriyas, they fight injustice. Vaishyas, they fight insufficiency. They make sure that everyone is well catered for. And Shudras fight indolence, meaning laziness. They keep the society moving. The qualities that are required for Brahmana is self-control, austerity, purity, and many more. I'm just giving a few. For Kshatriya, it is heroism, power, courage. For Vaishyas is farming, cow protection, business and trade. And for Shudra is simplicity and loyalty. Now, this is where we'll take a bit of a break and we'll do an activity. Okay? I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this activity. There are 2 parts to it. So maybe we'll do like 5 minutes each. Okay? So, I want to divide you in groups. Okay? So if I say the number 1, 2 and 3, there will be 3 groups, make it divide with the same places. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? You know your numbers? Number 1, 2, 3, however you put it. Okay? Alright, let's start again. No, no, just stay where you are. Just stay where you are.
Can you remove Ram Lan and write Krishna?
Okay, I want pain of silence, please. Okay. Now, next part is removing reactions. Now, with this knowledge, what does this knowledge do? Okay. We have heard that Krishna says that he delivered this imperishable transcendental knowledge to whom?
First destroy. Yes. Don't talk. Don't talk. Oh.
You learn good.
Where's it turning?
The ink is too dark.
So, what does Krishna say? That I gave this knowledge to Raj Rishis. These are the Kshatriyas, who are philosopher kings, who are guided by Brahmanas. They created a system in place, a society in place that enabled everyone to progress both materially and spiritually. Okay? Because these are the people who recognize the importance of the spiritual aspect of life. They are not only focused on the material aspect. They are not focused on just making people rich. No, they want people to get the knowledge about what is the true aim of life. And the true aim of life is to be self-realized. Okay? Now, this self-realization knowledge or transcendental knowledge has got 3 parts to it. First aspect is the aspect of the soul, to understand who I am. The aspect of God, who God is. And third is what is the relationship between myself and God. Okay? Now, when it is applied, when you apply this knowledge, when you start living life in a relationship with God, then what happens? This knowledge will enable you to do activities that clear your karmic balance. Okay? So, there are 3 types of activities, okay? There is good activities, or which is known as punya. There is bad activities, known as pap or sin. So good deeds, bad deeds. And then there is something known as spiritual activities. Okay? And these are like 0. They have there's no reaction. There's no positive, there's no negative. It's 0. So this is also known as karma, vikarma, and akarma. Okay? So, how many of you are accountants here, apart from myself? How many of you are accountants? Okay. So, how many of you know debit credits? Debit and credit. When you debit, it increases. When you credit, it is negation. So every good thing you do, there is a balance sheet. Balance sheet, yeah.
Yeah.
There is debits and there is credits. Okay. At the end, there is always going to be a balance. That is brought forwarded to the next lifetime. Okay. Whatever you do is either debit, credit, debit. There's always a balance, and that balance brings forward to your next lifetime. Now, if you are to close this bank of account, what needs to happen? If you are to ensure that there is no balance, what happens? They both have to negate. But so some people say that, oh, if you do a good activity, I can negate it with a bad activity. Or you do a bad activity, I can negate it with a good activity. But no. If you've done a bad activity, you have to suffer for the bad activity. And if you've done a good activity, you have to enjoy that good activity. So just like this doesn't happen. So you need to basically, this will keep on going. And you'll keep on getting the reactions to these ones. But we can start adding these ones. You can start adding zeros. Yeah? If everything comes to 0, 0, 0, everything will just basically balance itself out. And this is what the name of the game is. The name of the game is that if you do either vikarma, bad actions, or good actions, karma, or pap or punya, whatever you do, you have to basically take a birth again to enjoy or suffer the reactions of your actions. So the only way to get free from this cycle of birth and death is start doing spiritual activities. These are activities, or karma means actions that yield no reactions, and so they ultimately free one from the cycle of birth and death. Okay? So this action, to be able to do this, you will get no reaction, and because this action is performed in perfect knowledge of the relationship between myself and God. Okay? Now, how to acquire this knowledge? This acquiring of knowledge is to be done through some sort of sacrifice. Okay? To acquire, understand, and realize knowledge, some level of sacrifice is needed. How many of you like going to school?
Now, don't lie.
How many of you used to find it a struggle to get up in the morning to be able to go to school?
Obviously.
So you are sacrificing a bit of your life to be able to get to school in time so that you could learn something, so that you can make something of yourself. Yeah? So even just to learn material knowledge, you have to sacrifice your sleep to get to school in time. So imagine how much true this would also be for spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge also requires some sort of sacrifice to be done. Okay? Now, the difference between material knowledge and spiritual knowledge is that material knowledge is based on caliber, while spiritual knowledge is based on character. Now, you can become the best lawyer, but of a third-class character. Yeah, you can be the best, and you can know all the law books. You can have the best argumentative. But if your character is loose, you will just exploit the system, right? So you have to have good character for spiritual knowledge. Okay, without it, you will not get anywhere. Okay. Also, just because you might be very smart, one person doesn't need to know Sanskrit. They don't need to be a genius. They don't even need to be a philosopher or a scientist or a scholar to understand the Gita. To understand the Gita, one has got nothing to do with intellectual or analytical ability. It all depends on one's humbleness and a devotional service attitude. And this is in 434. Krishna tells Arjuna that if you want to learn this knowledge, you go to the people who have this knowledge. And the people who have this knowledge are people of saintly character. These are the people who have realized this spiritual knowledge and who have it. If I tell you, if you want to become a billionaire, you go and associate with billionaires. You'll understand. You will understand their way of thinking, their way of approaching problems. You will understand a lot of their mentality and their characteristics, which will also, if you absorb them, then you can also utilize and be able to exploit opportunities to become a billionaire yourself. So if you want spiritual knowledge, you have to associate with spiritual people. Okay? But the price to pay is we have to do our biggest sacrifice. And our biggest sacrifice is to give up pride by humbly submitting ourselves before an authentic guru. Now if you remember in chapter 2 we discussed this entire process of how to approach a guru. One has to be non-envious, one has to be humble, one has to have a selfless serving quality, and what is the last one? Non-enviousness, humbleness, service, and?
You actually faith work. Faith.
Huh?
Faith.
To be humble, to render service.
Render service?
Non-envious.
That's the first one, non-enviousness. Anyway, that's your homework, just to refresh your mind on chapter 2. Okay? Now, so what we need to do is we need knowledge not through study, but we need knowledge through sincerity. Okay? So modern education has become more of a process of like cramming data and copying it on the exam paper. There's a lot of information, but that information doesn't transform a person. Okay? So like Martin Luther King, he said that we have more guided missiles, but misguided men. Right? Men who have got less morals, less character. We don't need that. We need more of character people. Because knowledge in the hands of low character people will cause chaos in society. So Krishna emphasizes that transcendental knowledge will help guide one on the path of spirituality. As transcendental knowledge is like water flowing from a mountain to the sea. That is from a high level, a spiritual teacher, to the low level, to the disciple. And it highlights the type of consciousness that's recorded. Non-enviousness, humility, selfless service, and then the last one is sincerity. Sincerity, okay? These must be developed to receive that knowledge. And because these qualities, it will help to challenge our pride, and it will highlight our intellect as being insufficient to make us truly knowledgeable. The transcendental knowledge is a gift. We know it by what we become, which is received by grace from Krishna. Yeah? Now, digesting wisdom. Now we know food has a long process to digest. It starts from the mouth, all the way down to the esophagus and the stomach and the small and large intestines. Okay? So knowledge too has its own process of digestion. Spiritual learning happens in 4 stages. First, again, Shruti, hearing. You hear Shravana. You hear knowledge. You hear lectures. You hear discourses. You receive insight and inspiration. What happens with that? You think, okay, is it clear? What stands out? And do I have any questions? When you hear something the first time, you think about, okay, is everything clear? Can I understand everything? Next is that you go away and you reflect. It's called mananam. This is called deep contemplation and reflection. What is my experience? What opportunities and difficulties does this bring? Then you do nidhi dhyasanam. We need to do practical realization and application. Once you have deeply contemplated on this knowledge, then you start to say, okay, how can I apply it in my life? Right? What changes could I make in my life that will help me realize what this person is trying to tell me? And then finally is we need vandanam, which is prayer. We need heartfelt desire and supplication. What prayer could I make in this regard? Only after going through the 4 stages one can fully grasp the theoretical and application of the spiritual teachings, which will result in deep transformation of character. Okay? So this is the final part. The next two slides are just chapter summaries for you to read on your own time, and it will give you a good summary of the chapter. Any questions? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare